Good evening or good whatever time of day you are watching this video. Welcome to our final Fashion Fictions workshop video. We have come full circle. This is our last video. So because of that, I'm wearing the same t-shirt as I was in the first. This was actually purely unintentional. I just realized when I was going through the old files, but you know, nice little accident there. I do apologize in advance if you hear some extra noise coming from outside today. Because of the heat wave, I do have windows open and I might open some more windows. I hope that you're doing fine in the heat wave. So I do apologize for noise interference and hopefully it's kept to its minimum. So in the first two sessions, I equipped you with numerous different experimental styles of writing to present your garments either formally or in terms of content. I gave 3, I think, experiments per video. Today we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to diverge from the formula a bit because I want to really focus on one aspect, on one experiment. I noticed that participants have been following the experiments to a great extent and have been producing some truly amazing descriptions. So thank you for that and well done. Really great. So because of that, we are just going to focus on one thing today, as I feel like I've equipped you with so many experiments to explore already. And if there's an experiment that you've not yet explored that you would like to, I encourage you to either in your last description, use the skills I'm going to teach you today, or go and experiment with another experiment that you've not yet tried. So I've alluded to concrete poetry before, and last week we learnt, or 2 weeks ago rather, we learnt how to play around with typography and graphology, how to use colors to present your garment. But today we're going to have a look at breaking the rules a bit more. So just to have a recap of World 62, which is the fashion fiction world we are writing in, the distribution of images portraying clothes is outlawed. Fashion mail orders based solely on descriptive texts. Well, to what extent can writing be an image? This is what we're going to play around with today. So, concrete poetry, one of my favorite types of poetry, is poetry where the words are arranged on the page in a way that references or portrays the image or subject being talked about. So on the screen at the minute, I'm sharing a very famous example of a concrete poem, or calligram, by Guillaume Apollinaire. That's about Paris, and it depicts, to some extent, the Eiffel Tower. I say to some extent because if you weren't sure, or if the word Paris wasn't clearly visible, people might not necessarily get that it's the Eiffel Tower. It's not a very detailed image. It's not very evocative. It's very two-dimensional and flat. Doesn't really look that much like the Eiffel Tower, but the shape is there, the outline is there. Really, the main thing pointing us toward the fact it's the Eiffel Tower is the word Paris or Paris, as this is in the original French, in the middle. So if you were writing in a world where the portrayal of landmarks is banned, would this break the rules? Now, I'm not sure. I'm not an agent of World 62, but I do encourage us to play around with breaking the rules a bit further, as we've essentially been leading up to these skills. Let's see what else we can do that's pushing the boundaries. Another example of concrete poetry is George Herbert's Angel Wings, which is a poem where, presented on its side as it is here, the stanzas look very much like angel wings. So you can see that there are different ways of presenting words on a page that evoke different images. With the advent of digital technology, concrete poetry and visual poetry more broadly has become possibly more complex. We are no longer reliant on what a typewriter can do or on stringent and time-consuming printing processes when we can have when we can access software that allow us to create images that are maybe more detailed. So I'm just going to share with you some examples of my own concrete poetry from my ongoing poetry project I call I Imagine an Image. So this is about how a poetry is a rotten stern of ship, and it's all presented to look like a boat. This is a poem called The Four Pillars of Poetry that is a bit tongue-in-cheek, presents some quite ironic descriptions of what poetry ought to be, but it's presented in the style-ish of a Greek temple, obviously like synonymous with learning, synonymous with classical culture and knowledge. So it just plays around a bit with expectations there. You might be thinking, this really is breaking the rules. We can't display landmarks in this world. We can't display boats. Well, concrete poetry and visual poetry don't always necessarily need to represent objects. So while the 4 poems I've shared with you so far, one by Guillaume Apollinaire, one by George Herbert, and 2 by myself, do very much evoke or paint almost objects using the brushstroke that is the words. Some visual poetry can be more thematic. So this is a poem in I Imagine an Image that is just composed of the word coupling, but you can see that the letters in the words get closer and closer and closer until the words that are really 2 separate like parts of words at the start of the poem become one at the end. So this is an example of a visual poem more than a concrete poem, really. Concrete poetry represents objects. Visual poetry includes concrete poetry, but doesn't necessarily just portray objects. So you might think about how the lineation and graphology and layout on the page might evoke what a garment does, or what a garment is like, rather than necessarily flat out breaking the rules by portraying it. So how do I create these concrete and visual poems? Well, as I mentioned, we are no longer bound by the stringent sort of limitations of printing press and typewriters. I use this tool called Canva, which has, you can buy like upgrades, but the free version is very good in and of itself to create my concrete poems. Some people use Word, some people use other software, some people use Google Docs, but I really like Canva because it's incredibly, incredibly user-friendly, very easy to manipulate words and layout. I'm not going to be creating any clothes with you today, but I'm just going to, let's try something a bit different. I'm just going to try to create something or show you some of the things we can do with wordplay on Canva. Now, I feel like I should just make clear that Canva do not sponsor me. I've not been paid to promote it, even though I always bring up Canva in workshops. So I feel like I should. So if anyone of you happens to work for Canva and want to offer me a sponsorship, then I'm sure you can be given my email. So one of the other, and when I'm just scrolling through on the screen, you can probably see some of the other sort of wordplay experiments I am creating using Canva. So let's just have a bit of a play around. So one of the things I really like about Canva is that you can easily create circular texts. So the way that we do this is, imagine if we just have a regular piece of text. You can click on the text box, click on effects, scroll down to shape, see where it says curve, and then you can actually set the angle of the curve. So if you are selling a necklace, maybe, if you are trading a necklace, you might want to consider whether you can use Canva to create a necklace-shaped poem or description. It won't necessarily be breaking the rules because you're not portraying the necklace, you're just suggesting the idea of a necklace. Similarly, for earrings, we might write some generic text about earrings, or we might use some adjectives to describe our earrings. We might say like golden hoops droop down from my ears. I'm sure you can do something better than that. And then give it, say, 66-degree curve, turn it upside down. Then it's not necessarily breaking the rules. It doesn't look much like an earring, but you're suggesting an earring. You're making the visual catalog of clothing a bit more dynamic, a bit more captivating. If you wanted to, I promise myself and you, I wouldn't be creating anything, but it's just so fun. If you wanted to create a t-shirt, now let's see how this goes. You might be creating a bit of text describing the sleeve. And you can see how easy it is to manipulate text boxes here. You can drag a text box anywhere. If I know that I'm just copying and pasting it, but if you don't have any text box already on the screen, you can just go to the panel on the left-hand side, click text, and then you can just click one of these, text, text, text. So you've created your sleeve. You might now want to create your neckline. And then because necklines aren't straight, they are curved, of course, we are going to click on Effects, scroll down to Shape, and we are going to curve it a bit the other way. And then you might want to copy your sleeve text box and write a description of the shirt. So I'm wearing a t-shirt that says Hawaii pizza, and it's got an image of someone riding a slice of pizza. Very cute. If I were to physically recreate this in Canva, and I possibly could, especially the curved text here, that might be cheating because that is actually depicting what the garment actually looks like. But what I can do here is I can describe the shirt. White cotton t-shirt emblazoned with the, and you can see I'm using a very literal description here, but feel free to use some of the experiments I taught you in previous weeks, such as alphabetical constraints, to really combine numerous experiments and create a really adventurous and innovative way of describing clothing. You can even use colors here, but like I said, I'm just doing it quite straightforward, but see how you can combine different experiments. So many of the best writers create new ways of writing, not by inventing new things from scratch, but by combining previous experiments. Hawaii pizza, a man is boarding on a slice of pizza, gnarly. And then I will just extend this text box a bit. Extend this text box a bit so it looks like it finishes the way a t-shirt would. But you notice this is quite a short description. I can either keep it like this, I can add more words, but at this minute you might be considering, is this a t-shirt at all, or is this maybe a crop top? It says t-shirt, I can change that to crop top, but it's quite short, which makes you think about what size it might be. So hopefully we can see here how easy it is to play around with Canva. Sorry, I think my laptop is just being a bit slow right now. There are many other things you can do. You can also include some images. If you go to Elements, there are quite a few free images you can use. But I would encourage you to err on the side of caution in World 62. You don't know how far it's taking it too far. So while you can suggest the shapes of garments, I would advise you against just recreating or painting a garment in its entirety using Canva. So, like I said before, you might think this is breaking the rules, but I just want to ask you, is this really breaking the rules? We're giving more of a suggestion of a garment's appearance rather than recreating its image. One of the things that is described in the description, you can tell that the keyword is getting to me, is the collision of mental picture, material reality. You can spend hours and hours on Canva and other software recreating a t-shirt exactly, but where's the fun in that? I think part of the fun of World 62 is you can get a suggestion of what you're going to get, but you never know exactly what it's going to be. There's a collision of a mental picture of the Eiffel Tower here and material reality. There's a, well, not that there is a material reality to Angel Wings, but there is a collision between what is being presented in George Herbert's poem and what Angel Wings actually look like. Likewise with the t-shirt and the necklace poems we just created, there's a collision between what they are suggesting and the mental picture they evoke in the person you're sending the garment to and the garment they're actually going to receive. I would argue we are pushing the boundaries of the rules rather than breaking them forthright. Thank you so much for all of your kind comments in the WhatsApp chat, thanking me for these videos. It's been an absolute pleasure to be aboard with this project. Thank you so much for your kind comments, and thank you, Amy, for having me on board. I hope that you enjoy what is left of World 62, and I look forward to continuing seeing your garment descriptions. Take care, everybody. And just as a final reminder, my debut book of experimental poetry, The Ox House, is out now with Interact Press. So if you've enjoyed some of the poems I've showed you in our examples over the last few weeks, then please do consider checking that out. But thank you, you've been great. And I hope that you take care in the heat wave and enjoy the rest of Fashion Fictions. Now I've forgotten how to end a meeting. This is just awkward. Okay, here we go. Take care. Bye.